Call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council Workshop for July 9th, 2025. Jamie, will you call the roll?
Anderson,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy,
Here.
Pearson. Here. Stanton.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. Any agenda changes? All right. Moving on to public comment on agenda items only. Anyone in the room? See anyone online? Okay, that takes us to approval of minutes. If I could get a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I gotta make a motion. I move we approve the minutes as sent out for the regular city council meeting of June 23rd.
Second,
I'll second.
any changes?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
on page 5, for clarification, paragraph 2, instead of saying supported by, it should say seconded by Clark.
Thank you. Do we need to amend the motion or her motion to include that change?
So making the motion, right, and that only included the regular meeting minutes, you'll have to close as well. So you could do one motion, you could do the regular and close with the amendment to the regular meeting minutes, it's one motion, or you could do separately, whatever you choose.
Chris, do you have a preference?
Let's do them together as amended.
Okay.
Just need to add the date of the closed session.
Same date,
Okay.
the dates right here, there's a regular and a closed on the same.
I move we approve the regular city council meeting minutes as amended and the closed session city council meeting minutes, both of June 23rd. Second.
It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Takes us to discussion item 6A, City Hall interior renovations. City manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, council. Wait just one moment here while Mr. Moxie is logging in
Great.
with us, because he's important for this agenda item, so. All right, perfect. So for the last several years, one of the priorities of the city council has been to work on some interior renovations here at City Hall, and the need's certainly still there, right? You can see the carpet's kind of fading, the bathrooms are aging, our configuration of our spaces, challenging at times as we've kind of grown as a team. So for fiscal year 25-26, you again made interior renovations of City Hall a priority. During the budget season, we worked with our engineers to kind of really update a previous proposal that they had put together to kind of come up with some design options. And before you today for your review and discussion is an engineering proposal that would really kind of conduct a needs study to kind of take a look at what our actual needs are. Prepare a couple of conceptual designs for each floor, but also kind of take a look at the structural elements of the City Hall building, especially considering, we want to know what options really we have, where can we actually move things or not move things, or like how costly would that be? Some of our load bearing areas are going to really kind of probably make the decision for us, or could lead to a lot of other costs if it's costly to move. So we kind of need to know where that's at as well. So if you'd like, I can turn it over to our engineer John Moxie to kind of walk through any details in the proposal or answer any questions that you have.
Thanks for joining us, John.
Yeah, thanks. This is very similar to some of the kind of planning phases we've done for Maple Street, for the Mount Bald Head restroom. Just kind of a study phase to figure out what it is we're actually going to be designing, make sure, all the stakeholders are kind of moving in the same direction and the vision is set. And then we can kind of figure out, okay, what is, design going to look like. So this is kind of the first phase proposal, similar to those others. I think it kind of speaks for itself. We're not expecting many structural issues, concerns, but we do know that there's some load-bearing walls potentially to move, things like that. So just wanted to at least have a good understanding of the structure before we start tearing things apart, obviously. So yeah, it's a combination of architectural and structural just to get us ready to make sure whatever we come up with is feasible and practical.
Great, thanks. Questions for John or Ryan? Russ?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, John. More of a question about just the, I don't know how to put this, the capability. Gleason Vanderbrink is a civil engineering firm by trade. Space needs and use needs by employees and work environments and things like that would seem to be on the face of it, maybe be kind of outside of, the architectural part makes sense, but kind of outside of what a civil engineer would normally do. I think civil engineers and roads, streets, things of that nature. So do you have anything you can share with us in terms of how you maybe have helped other clients with similar projects?
Sure. Yeah, it definitely won't be me leading this effort. Architecture is not my bailiwick. We have a registered architect on staff and other architectural staff that supports him. We've done a lot of space needs planning for city halls, fire stations, a lot of public buildings. We don't get into commercial building space planning much, but most of our clients are like Saugatuck, and so we kind of focus on those municipal type buildings. That's kind of our niche. And then we have structural engineers on staff that support that, do a lot of different structural engineering.
Yeah, thank you, John. I just want to make sure that we do this right for our city staff who've been working with this current configuration since probably 1985, something like that. I mean, it's been a while. So I just want to make sure that when we invest the money in this, that we get it done right for them so they can have a comfortable, good workspace at the end of the day. So thank you.
If it means anything, our architecture staff does the design for our own renovations here for our office space, and I'm pretty cozy.
Love to hear that.
Thank you, John.
Other questions or comments? All right, so this will be approving the budget will be on Monday's agenda?
Yep.
Great.
I have another question. I know that the amount was in the bid, $30,000, I believe.
Yes.
If I remember correctly. Do we have money on the books this year for actual renovation work itself? We
No.
just have the design, the proposal, right?
Yep, just this amount is included
Okay.
in the budget.
So ideally, we'd probably be looking at fiscal year 27,
Yep.
right? Okay. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
but we could amend that. We could ask for funds at any time.
Yeah, if we get through this process and we're like, yep, that's, we want you to design that and want to kick that process off, John can bring forth another proposal to take that step and get bids, see what that cost is, and we can make budget adjustments. Yeah.
Great. Anything else? Okay, it takes us to discussion item B, creation of parking improvements task force and request for RFP. Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Another topic that's kind of been discussed for quite some time, and it's parking and looking at solutions and addressing issues that there may be or has been identified as a priority for 2025, 2026. And really that conversation over the years seems to have involved a lot of different thoughts and concerns. Some perceive a lack of parking spaces and availability. Some have raised concerns about employees that may be working at businesses downtown, kind of taking up some of those prime parking spots that maybe aren't available for residents and visitors when they're visiting businesses. Others have expressed concerns that there's been a lack of enforcement with existing parking regulations and 3-hour parking limits and things that are already on the books. And then, my understanding of some of the ideas that have come up over the years is that they've varied anywhere from kind of adding additional spaces, whether it be kind of reconfiguring streets, to some expressing maybe a need for some sort of parking ramp to really kind of ramp up the amount of inventory. Others have raised interest in looking at kind of a paid parking system to keep spaces, turning over, and using those funds to, kind of support some of our infrastructure as well as other, maybe multimodal or transit options that we might, need to improve our parking situation. Others have raised concerns with zoning and that, our downtown business district doesn't, is exempt from our parking requirements, that if there's a new use that goes in, there's not a requirement to necessarily provide parking. Obviously, we touched on enforcement, and then others have also, indicated that, a need for maybe improved wayfinding signage or adding even more, transit options beyond those that we already have. And so all of this would be quite an undertaking and is really going to kind of take a deep dive and really should involve a wide variety of, I think, of stakeholders. There's a lot of folks that are going to have a lot of thoughts and perspectives on this, and it's something that we should definitely, take our time with. So similar to kind of your short-term rental process, the city's charter allows you to form an advisory committee to kind of, support the work that you're doing and kind of, give you some feedback. And so I've kind of put forth a plan to form another advisory committee that would kind of focus on parking improvements. My suggestion, again, these are suggestions here for you to kind of all discuss and wrestle with today, but, suggesting a committee be made up of, at least a city council member and a planning commissioner, a city resident that maybe doesn't own a business, but then try to get a variety of the different business perspectives from a restaurant owner, a retail business owner, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau, somebody that kind of represents lodging. So could be staff from there that, kind of represents them as a whole, and they also have a unique perspective in and of themselves, and hearing from visitors more directly on a regular basis and their challenges. But I think the interurban, would be good to have at the table as well, considering that, additional transit options and what's already existing, and discussing ways to utilize that more, I think is a key piece of the equation would be good to have at the table. So forming a committee is one piece, and then really the committee and really staff are going to need some consulting support if we're going to really do a deep dive and really open up all of this. And so I put together a draft request for proposals that would really kind of do that deep dive and look at everything. So kind of start with, all right, let's define the problem and the concerns. What does the committee see? Do we need to do some surveying or, talk with the community more to kind of see what we really should focus in on, but really kind of get a good full inventory of what we do have in public and private parking locations. Really looking at east of the river here. We're kind of looking at, this area, not necessarily west of the river. We may need to look at inventory outside of the city or nearby that we can utilize to also, with transit options. I think we really need to kind of probably take a look at a parking needs analysis, both, what is our existing parking need today, both seasonally, obviously peak season is different than the off season, but then there's also future needs to look at as well. How do we anticipate that we're going to develop over time? And then what are our future needs going to be, and take that into account as we're developing options. And then work with that consultant to really kind of look at all the various options that we might have available. Where can we create additional parking, whether it's restriping or reconfiguring streets? Are there opportunities to acquire additional property for parking? If there's a desire for constructing a ramp, what's in a feasible location? At a very high level, what kind of costs would we be facing for that? Maybe some financing options. What additional transit wayfinding and non-motorized infrastructure can we add? Look at paid parking in certain areas. What's the cost to implement that, from, capital investment, ongoing operational costs? What should that fee structure look like? Should we make any changes to our existing regulations, whether it be zoning or other police powers to kind of, regulate the existing parking or future parking that we'll have? And then all of that will need some enforcement. So taking a look at what enforcement options we should take a look at. So this is not going to be a overnight process. It's going to be a lengthy process. If you choose to move forward, even getting a committee up and running with accepting applications, interviewing, and then bringing them back for you to agree on who's going to be a member of the task force, as well as identifying a consultant. They're going to give them time to put together proposals, review them, ask questions, and then bring something forth. It's going to take some time to get all of that off the ground. And then I anticipate once we do have a group form that they're probably going to be a 9 to 12 month commitment to really kind of do that deep dive and kind of report back on what the recommendations are. So.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Chris.
In just reading this, I think it is going to be pretty complicated. I'm glad to see that we're doing it. I'm glad that we're going to take a little time in doing it. And I look at the workload. Joe's on 3 committees, you're on 2, she's on 2, you're on 2. I recommend Gregory to be on the city council because he's the link with the interurban, which is going to be huge in this. And he's only on the 1 committee, if you would have the time to.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and nominate myself, not because I've lived downtown for several decades, have had a former business downtown. I feel like I know the culture of parking pretty good, and being a part of Interurban, I think I can bring some value to some of those conversations.
I will second Councilmember Peterson's comments and Gregory's
And I
comments
will,
as well.
yeah, I'll put my
I-
head on the guillotine for that. I know it's gonna be lengthy, and I know it's a,
Your
God.
connection to a lot of the businesses through your radio show, you hear from them all the time. And I think you would be the perfect person to sit on the board committee.
I agree. Would you recommend also bringing on though an Interurban staffer as well?
Oh, definitely.
Okay,
Okay.
I would like to try to encourage Becky
that would be
Okay.
great.
to be on as well. And when I see her next week, I'll
Great,
put a little bug in her ear.
That sounds good.
Great, thank you.
Regarding the next one, the planning commission member, I would suggest Austin Marinow for the planning commission. He previously lived kind of over by Retro.
Mhm.
He and Olivia rented there. Now they're residents on the hill, so they're down here a lot. I think they'd be good ones for this.
Yeah,
Or he would, I should say.
I
he would.
agree.
yeah, he lives on the hill. I think he's got a lot of experience with parking here in town too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
great. And then I'm assuming that we will put out for application, people to apply for the other slots.
Do you agree to form this committee formally? Yes.
Yes, I mean, if we,
That-
yes,
yep,
assume,
yep.
right, okay. So just sort of philosophically, we're all on board that we want to do this, it seems like.
Absolutely.
I think one thought, one lens I would like us to be sure we take when we find a consultant is somebody who does have experience and who can bring us recommendations based on what other communities have done. I think that was a frustration I had on the short-term rental task force, that they really played back what we said instead of brought us data on what other communities were doing,
Mhm.
so.
In so many communities, it's fresh for them to have paid parking. And just thinking of Petoskey and some of the tourist towns up north, it's new to them as well. So they might have a fresh take on, things that they've learned from it and how it's working for them. Also Muskegon area, they implemented some paid parking spots and, they're getting a lot of revenue from it. For sure. But they also are getting, a little feedback from their community members that, sometimes it's too high and that sort of thing. So I just think there's a lot of communities out there that have experienced it, and the newer ones especially,
Right.
to find out what they're learning.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, it was one thing that I think worked well for many of us on short-term rentals is coming in with a really open mind to explore what's out there, because I think everybody on the short-term rental task force learned a lot and came out of that process with points of view that they didn't have going in, so. Okay, any other, Russ?
Yeah, I would just, thank you. I would support, Councilmember Muncy being on this task force, represents city council, and, would agree with Austin Marino from the planning commission. The problem has to be clearly defined before that group even gets started, because if you watch Facebook, if you talk to people on the street, people's perception of what the problem is varies.
Mhm.
Some people say we don't have enough spots to park. My argument would be, as a matter of fact, I had a conversation last week with someone who's lived in this town for forever. And we were talking about parking, and I said, so what do you think? And I'm not gonna identify this person. And I said, what is the problem? Well, there's nowhere to park. I said, there's spots up on the hill. You can always park on the hill. He says, but I can't park in front of the sandbar and go get a beer when I want. Point I'm making is, no, the point I'm making
you,
though
Chris?
is that he's probably in his early 80s maybe. But his perception of the problem is he can't pull up in front of the sandbar in a spot that he wants to park to go in and have a beer. Is that a problem? Well, for him individually it is, but the other problem is that he's got a handicap sticker and he can't easily park near the sandbar, for instance. So that's got to be part of the discussion in terms of maybe we need increased handicap. But we're an older community. We have a lot of older visitors. People are disabled. We probably need to have that be part of the calculus too, in terms of what we have for needs. And I would also suggest that, the problem really is, before I go too far, I don't want to get into the solutions yet, but many, many communities have talked about this. This has been talked about in Saugatuck since I have any memories of Saugatuck. Lisa probably has memories of this too, being around here quite just about as long as me. It's been a continuous thing, and many of the solutions that are described or talked about in the presentation that was put together have been tried in Saugatuck numerous times and have failed for various reasons. That's not to say you shouldn't revisit it, but I just would like, and that's why I appreciate Gregory stepping
I'm
up.
sorry, what presentation?
No, within the RFP
Oh, I
that
see.
was put
Okay.
together. That, and Gregory's got the years here to be able to speak from experience and actually seeing some of these things tried, you know. We went around, we had parking enforcement, we had 3-hour parking enforcement, we marked tires. It was Barb Reiniger, for those of you that may remember Barb. And then we stopped doing that because there was some issues with the state. And so anyway, the city has tried a number of different things. We've closed the town to cars. And so what I'm saying is that it's important to have a perspective on this, and don't think we have to reinvent the wheel on this. And you can go out, as a matter of fact, you can just go out and you can type in parking task force and you'll see, I don't know how many ones pop up. To the mayor's point, you can use some of that information to kind of guide you in terms of what the solutions are being presented once the problem's identified. So I think we need to be very thoughtful about this. I would also suggest too, is that from my perspective, the problem is that people don't know where to park. We have absolutely no aids to parking in town. I think we should try out a trial parking ambassador program, have something where the city may use the interurban or maybe use carts that we could take people up to where parking spots are and take them back downtown. I mean, there's things that we can do that are going to be less intensive than a $3 million parking structure, which I will be against, because that's just any small quaint town feel you want to have will be ruined by that, in my opinion. And also making sure that people understand that, you know, when they come to town, there may be times where it's really busy here. And as a matter of fact, the town's got a capacity. So I think these are the things that we need to be, I want this task force, once it's formed and running, to think about all those perspectives. I think, Gregory, you're an ideal fit for this, given your history here, living downtown, you see it, you live it. I would also suggest that we maybe not tackle this until the fall. The city's under stress. We've had 2 recent resignations of key people for our city, and that puts a lot of pressure and distress on this organization. And I think this would be something that would be better utilized and better served in the fall, especially if you have business owners and others that are involved that may be busy during this time of the year, and our city staff is busy. I would just suggest we maybe put some thought behind maybe pushing this out towards the fall so we can be a little bit more attentive to it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm in support of it.
Are you contemplating a lot of staff workload associated with this?
Well, it'd be primarily me, and then, you know, there may be some planning and zoning, you know, workload at times, but I think with the timeline to establish the task force and identify the consultant, I mean, we're going to be into the fall before they start their
Right.
work. And so I
Before
think
we
that'll
start
align
meeting.
well. That
RFPs aren't even due till August
Yeah.
18th,
Yeah.
so.
Yep. Yes.
I agree that the task force should have the freedom to look at everything from, you know, paint to construction, you know, and everything in between. I think that's great. One thing that might be missing, and I'm not married to this idea, but it just happened last night. I was out to dinner and saw a couple of our counterparts from Douglas, and they immediately brought up parking and the idea of a circulator. You know.
Yeah, she contacted me yesterday.
Did she? Okay, yeah. You know, so I'm wondering if part of this is a tri-community solution. You know, I think the idea of a parking structure is an idea that's, you know, that would be a hard one to do. Expense alone, you know, could make it prohibitive. And Councilman Gardner makes a point about, you know, the aesthetics. But you know, having lived overseas, I have seen a number of small towns in England that were never designed for automobiles ever. And so they've had to create basically off-site parking with a circulator situation that gets you into these little harbor towns, you know, where the streets are so narrow,
Right.
you can't even drive, you know, more than a single car, like a Mini Cooper.
Right.
So, yeah, I wonder if there is a place for tri-community input.
I think, you know, if we did a survey as we did with short-term rental, it's open. I mean, the other thing, like with the short-term rental, like we had the fire department come in and talk to us. So we involved people who
Okay.
weren't actually on the task force,
Okay.
but who could get, because I think definitely we want to hear Douglas's perspective. in the township
Okay.
as well, and that might be a better way than to get a committee that's that big, but
That's probably sufficient then. if you're
Yeah,
contemplating
and
that.
having the Convention and Visitors Bureau on that represents the
Right.
tri-community area.
Yeah.
Yeah, interurban representing tri-community.
And I have a constant communication with Daniel DeFranco. He's a personal friend as well, you know, at the township. And not to get too much into this, because I mean, we're not really solving anything here. We're just talking, kind of brainstorming, I think. And some of those ideas have been tried in the past and just not utilized. And so that's why. But I do want to mention though, this is a different culture we're in. 10, 15 years ago when we had Del Sol, when somebody got a parking ticket, they took it to the Douglas police. It was only $5, number one, back in the day. And they would take it to the police station. If you took it there by the end of the day, they would rip it up. You wouldn't have to pay for it. So I think a lot of it has to do as we go forward and as we talk about this, a lot of it has to go with education, like Scott was saying, telling people where to park, telling people that, you know, things are how they were 20 years ago. And I think wayfinding too. So I think there's a lot of things. I don't want to get into a whole lot of it, but I just do want to mention it is a different climate now than it was 20 years ago. So I don't know if, you know, things that we did 20 years ago are going to work now.
I mean, it is, go ahead, sorry, Councilman.
Just two quick things. One of the things we also need, I think, and have him be involved is John Moxie. The new construction right across from you, Councilmember Dean. We should have put a curb in there. We should have put a curb in there. Whenever that new construction comes along and people rip everything up, we're looking at the hard stand on right of ways and things. We should start planning for that. When new things come to us and we have the opportunity to widen the road and put a curb in or some other way, hard top or whatever, but that should be going hand in hand with the whole idea of downtown parking too. And then the second thing is for those of us who go warm, they have parking meters now that you just tap your card.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about, if they stay there for 3 more hours, they get the bill. We don't have to worry about marking tires or any of that stuff. So like you said, it's a whole new world.
Yeah, and how tickets are enforced is different now. Even in Douglas, you know, Douglas and, you know, police officers are now writing tickets. 15, 20 years ago, they were a lot more lenient here in this town.
You have to write tickets with this stuff.
Right.
If you've got the computerized thing, I know, because I got a couple of bills.
it sounds like someone with experience here.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Joe, anything you want to add?
I mean, there's so many dimensions to solving the parking problem. I think Russ hit it right. We got to understand what the problem is that we're trying to solve first, and we need our committee to get together to do that. I mean, there's ad parking, there's trying to, you know, drive more turnover. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at solving a parking problem. So, you know, I think this is a great idea. I like this man, and I'm sorry to say, but he gets my vote too.
Right.
So I would really be happy to see Gregory on it, and I'm really happy to see this formed, and I'm fine with the, you know, trying to get an RFP out as well. My only ask is that, you know, this is going to be such an important, you know, process for the town, you know, that we just get regular, you know, feedback to the council so we can understand, you know, especially defining the problem statement, you know, this is what we're really trying to do. I think that's going to be important to understand that as we get forward.
I think it's nice that, you know, it's good for the community to see that we're actually doing something. I've talked to past council members who have said, oh, we talked about parking in the past. I'm like, well, no, you might have talked about it at a meeting, but we're going forward with putting a committee, putting a full consult with us and going through with actually workable solutions by the time we're done. So I think it's about time that the city of Saugatuck does this.
Great. And another strength that you have, you will bring to it is you're really good at summarizing what's going on. And I know you'll do a great job of making this. Okay. Let's move to potential donor for future Saugatuck Wilds Nature Preserve. It's page 21 on our packet. Set that up, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So we had a anonymous donor come forth with kind of an offer to donate some dollars toward the future construction of a pavilion at the new Saugatuck Wilds Nature Preserve. And so the donors indicated that these dollars wouldn't be available until their death. But at that time, dollars would be available and then a pavilion could be constructed. And so before establishing the legal mechanisms to really provide the funds, the donors really kind of looking for some feedback from the city council on whether there's even interest in a future, pavilion and related accessory items at Saugatuck Wilds Nature Preserve. Donors kind of envisioning, providing dollars that would, provide for construction of a pavilion that's 20 foot by 40 foot, include benches and or picnic tables, possibly a fireplace. The donor indicated that they would like the pavilion to be named after their dog. That any leftover funds, if any, would then be still available to kind of maintain the pavilion going forward. And so the donor is wanting to remain anonymous. That creates some challenges with kind of creating a legal mechanism or legal agreement to provide certain dollars for a specific purpose. And so we've kind of discussed what some of those options might look like. But before they kind of take those next steps, again, they're kind of wanting at least this council's feedback on that. The donor does have a representative here today, Leah Root, to answer any questions on their behalf, if you have any. And turn it over to you.
All right. Questions? Chris?
I've been involved in one donation, which was the Johnson, Mr. Johnson's memorial right here. And the other one before that, there were two. There was the sculpture from Cynthia and then the Rose Garden. And I remember that the Rose Garden, they accepted that because there was a continuing fund to maintain it. There wasn't on that, and I think it was $5,000 to power paint it again. I think there's a continuing fund over here to take care of Johnson. So I guess that's one question for us. I mean, I think it's absolutely wonderful. I'd love to have it. My question is down the road, just the cost of maintenance and upkeep. Do we want to make sure we have something like that before we accept donations, or just assume that we'll pick it up? I can go either way.
Yeah, I guess a question, has this sort of worked its way into or through Parks and Public Works Committee? Okay, it's very generous, and I love seeing this. I love when people want to, donate to the community. It's absolutely amazing, and I applaud it. I just want to make sure that it's being done in a holistic fashion. If there are already discussions going on in Parks and Public Works, which I don't know, I haven't attended a meeting recently of that committee, but if there are discussions going on already on, for example, the old snowmobile club or senior center that's there, if there's talk of converting that or renovating that in some way, shape, or form, I feel that if we get ahead of Parks and Public Works, we could run into a problem. I'm very much sort of in favor of making improvements to that park whenever possible. But I do think it should be done in kind of an integrated, holistic way, as opposed to the city then going back to Public Works with, you've got this now. Although we're not quite sure when you're going to get it, but you have to make space for it, when they may have already been talking about some other types of structures. So that's my only concern. I love the idea though of a fireplace there. I really do think that park has great potential as a winter recreation cross-country ski place. If anyone's had the opportunity to visit the Pigeon Creek cross-country ski facility, it's an amazing place where people can sled, cross-country ski, and they actually have a lodge with a concession and a big, nice fireplace where everybody can go and warm up, and it's just a very nice environment. So I think this is great. I just wonder if it's coming to the council at the right time, or if it should be coming before.
So I will
You would know best.
Just as the representative on the Parks and Public Works Committee, we take our direction from council.
Yes.
So if council says, hey, we have this wonderful donation, we would like you all to figure out where that would go, if it makes sense in the plan, and then we would take it from there. And our direction would come from you for you all to decide, if we want to accept these funds and if this is something that you want Parks and Public Works to figure out where this is going to go and how to utilize it, talking with the CVB about what they might want to do in the shoulder seasons and those types of things. Those are conversations that we could certainly have and make that work. But we would want to hear from our council to say, if we accept it as a council to go forward with it.
I agree.
No, I definitely think working with PPW makes sense. My only question is I'm kind of playing, and by the way, I'm 100% supportive of this, and I just echo Council Dean's comments. The community at large, the donations we've seen, it's a wonderful thing to see, and I'd love to see that park be improved upon. My only question would be, does the city reserve some right to the design standards if we do go forward, just so that, we make sure that there's a look and feel that kind of matches where we're trying to take.
Absolutely. That should be the city council's decision. I mean, that shouldn't be something that comes up through committee.
What if
That's something we would look at.
Yeah, what if,
I just would want to make sure that whether we actually drive it or actually approve it, that there's just some kind of council oversight on the look and feel.
right, and that the donation isn't so rigid, like what if the pavilion for the space that Parks and Public Works sees for it can only be, 15 by 35, or maybe it could be a little bit bigger, whatever, and I just want to make sure that there's enough flexibility in there for us to design it.
I mean,
So,
go ahead, Lauren.
My question would be, it talks about the leftover funds, if any, to maintain the pavilion. Is it something that could be set up like the Rose Garden where the leftover funds could, sit in a fund that could gain interest or that we could use, down the line?
Yeah, so right now, the Rose Garden funds are, they're committed in our budget, even, they're part of our overall general fund balance, but we have like a commitment on those, that our auditors checked. So that's kind of noted separately. So yes,
Yeah.
that is possible. And Ms. Root can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that the donor is, I think they're leaving this fairly broad. They want to provide enough dollars to kind of construct what's listed here. I don't think the donor's going to have an issue with it being larger if the city council wanted to put more dollars into something. And I don't think that other than, the name of the pavilion,
Which would be, do we know the dog's name?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that, I mean, the donor gave me the name. I don't know if that would give away who the
Okay.
donor is. So
No.
Is there a dollar amount? Because it says leftover funds, if any. So, I mean, I know it says this is money that wouldn't be available until the passing, their passing. But if they're visioning that there's leftover funds, is there a dollar amount that we can know, or?
You kind of have to be if you're going to try to figure out a.
Right.
So the donor has an amount in mind, and I don't know if they've shared that with Ms. Root, but
If we can share that so that we know what.
The dollar amount was $100,000.
Okay, thank you for that.
Are we generally in agreement, though, that we like this idea, but we would like, and obviously the buck stops with council. We all agree on that,
Yeah.
but are we in agreement that maybe PPW should do a little bit of scoping at least to better understand some of these details that we're trying to hash out? I mean, does that
Yeah,
make sense? Lauren?
And the way things have worked in the past is, we've talked about it where we might have 3 different design ideas. It would come to
Right.
council. Council would say, we like, option B of the 3 that you
Right.
come up with and go from there in that way.
And I would advise that we could try to leave leftover funds as much as possible.
Yeah.
So that we could have money that in the bank to maintain that as long as we can.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Russ?
Yeah, again, thank you, Leah, for being here today. I'm very appreciative of, Saugatuck we're very fortunate. We have no shortage of people that want to contribute to this community. We've got a lot of benches around town. We've got trees that have been planted with people's, plaques on them and so forth. So we've got a tradition of doing that. We actually have a policy that dictates if you want to name or put your name on a bench, or if you want to plant a tree, there's a policy that we've had in place for I don't know, a number of years. This, in my mind, begs the question of where our donor policy is, because with the naming right request, and this is very specific here in terms of what this person would like to see happen, which is great because they clearly have a vision on this. But ultimately, the city has to decide, is this the priority? Is $100,000, in terms of naming rights, naming rights should be a part of a policy that the city should have. We should have a donor policy that tells people exactly what they can expect if they want to donate, like our other policy does for benches and so forth. I would like to see us say, yes, we're very willing to talk about this, but I've asked for this before, and I think we really need to put a donor policy in place so we can help guide these decisions and people when they come to the city, so they know if I want to give $100,000, here's what the city is going to be looking at this as. Here's how they're going to appropriate this. This is how they're going to evaluate my gift. Most organizations have that type of a policy, and so I really would say that we want to get something in place so we can help guide folks that want to come and see us. The second topic is priority. I know the Wilds is a brand new shiny thing for the city, but we've got other parks that have needs too. Mount Baldhead particularly, which we were going to be spending some money on with new bathrooms and a new platform and so forth. But there's other needs around this community that may be more of a priority for the council and for our residents than the Wilds. Not to say that this isn't an appropriate request, but I'm just saying is that we need to look at this, and that's where the donor policy comes into play, is say, okay, here's the city's priorities for its park improvements and where we'd like to see money go as that's how capital improvement projects works. And that's how, from my understanding, how donor programs work is, here's the laundry list of things that we need. Where would you like to spend your money?
Right, and the Councilmember Garnett, really exactly what happened here. So the donor approached the city. I discussed with the donor that we have a lot of other things that are prioritized and a lot of other needs that we have, and asked the donor if they were interested in providing dollars towards, existing things that we're working on. They weren't. So I don't think that you want me as your manager to say, nope, sorry, it's not a priority on our list. It's really up to you as a council to then to determine, is it something that you're willing to consider? And is it something that, you're willing to accept dollars for? And so I've heard that you want the policy. If you as a council want me to put that at the top of the list to get that done and drafted and before you, I will do it. I will work at your direction. I had what I had, today. I'm bringing this forth for you as a council to ultimately make a decision, provide some direction on how you want to handle it. And I anticipate that even a future donor policy is going to say, at the end of the day, you as a council are going to probably hear about what the donation offer is and ultimately make a decision. So I know we don't have something in writing, but I think that what we have, kind of follow the process that you laid out, which I think makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. But in this case, they just weren't interested in kind of some of our existing initiatives. They thought Saugatuck Wilds was a good place to put dollars.
I'd personally like to see this move forward with sort of Parks and Public Works kind of doing some of the vetting, things like, for hypothetically, is the dog named after a Native American tribe or something that suddenly becomes problematic, like the former high school name or something, I think once they come back with us, that sort of will do some of the policy stuff, in terms of like, is it appropriate? Is it, does it match the plan? But I would really don't want to create a chilling effect that if a donor comes with something that's near and dear to their heart, that doesn't necessarily match our number one priority, but it does fill something that is lower down on the list because it's important to them, I would be very grateful for that kind of support from the community. And I think we all should be, because that frees up taxpayer dollars for our priorities. So I'm very much in favor of this. I do think it's worth, though, before once again, we're the ones that, the buck stops with us, that we get a better view from Parks and Public Works. I could envision some of the Parks and Public Works committee staff working with the donor, visiting the property, showing some of the things that they've been talking about, so they can work together in a coordinated way. But suddenly, the existing building might appeal if there is thoughts about the existing building that appeal to the donor. There's no harm in a conversation, is there?
Right. Yeah, I'm totally for this. I love the idea of having a fireplace and going, snow walking or skiing and, having a little fireplace there. Of course, picnics and all that. Anything, to help improve that park, to make it nicer. I think that's a great idea. And I love it when people have money to spend here. It just popped in my head. Now, the donor advised the funds will not be available until they're done, right? So we are spending resources, city resources on a plan that there's no guarantee, I mean, is there going to be some kind of paperwork or escrow or, you know what I mean? Is there something that we can know that we are going to have these funds for all the work that we're going to be putting into it? What if something happens and somebody changes their mind, changes their will at the end of their death, it's just something that came through. That the fact that we don't have that check in our hand yet we're taking the time using city resources, and we do have a lot of projects going on right now, and we don't have that check in our hand yet. And so we're doing something on a promise more than a check.
Yes, so we're not looking to have everything all fleshed out and kind of, full plans or anything like that. So we're not spending that level of detail at this point in time. And certainly Parks and Public Works and you would work through those details later on. But again, the donors just looking today from initial feedback, are you interested in this? If so, then they also want to make sure that the dollars that they give are going to be used for this specific purpose, but they didn't want to spend the time to prepare legal agreements or prepare,
Right.
documents through their, trust or other mechanisms to make this a reality without knowing that the council, at least the existing council, is open to it. So from here, I'm hearing at least a majority of you are open to, or maybe all of you are open to accepting this donation for this purpose. So we'll go back and work with the donor and their, legal representatives and prepare all the
Right.
paperwork. That may be an agreement, or that may be, something else. The problem is they want to remain anonymous. That creates the issues with us. For us to enter into an agreement, we had to enter into an agreement with somebody.
Right.
It's the name of that entity and so forth. So we're gonna work with them on those details. And if we need to bring something back to you
Right.
to approve, to basically say, all right, these funds are essentially committed in the future. And upon their passing, then we would then kind of work through more
Right.
plan details and go from there.
And yeah, I don't know who the donor is. I think it's wonderful, but I'm just thinking, what if something happens and the donor goes bankrupt before they pass away? I mean, anything could happen with their finances,
Good.
so.
So that means Parks and Public Works might wait a while before we, work on it.
Oh, I
know,
see, before you take.
Yeah.
it.
it
Oh, I'm all
might
for
be a
it though.
while.
I'm all for it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I support it.
Okay, is everybody on board with that? Or enough of us on board with that, Russ?
Yeah, I'm on board with this. My question has been repeated about the donation policy because I think it's important for the city to have something in place for future circumstances. I'm in support of this. I think it's wonderful, and we can certainly work through a way to be able to accommodate this request. I think about just longer term, so.
Great.
Thank you, Leah.
Leah,
Thanks,
appreciate you
Leah.
coming. Tell the donor we're very appreciative.
We're very appreciative, yeah.
Okay, that takes us to the temporary sign installation agreement between the city, township, and road commission on page 22. Ryan.
Yeah, I think I've provided some updates in my manager's report to all of you that we've been, since your direction to kind of relocate that Saugatuck sign along the river to Howland and Blue Star. The township and the road commission have wanted a more formal agreement to be in place. And so we've kind of exchanged that agreement, back and forth, and everybody's legal counsels and staff had to look at everything. So it's taken some time. So, but we have it here before you. Essentially, this would allow for that sign to remain in place on a temporary basis. It's still temporary for up to 3 years. The agreement basically makes a commitment that we'll work with the township to kind of develop new signage for that intersection that would kind of represent both municipalities. If something isn't designed and in place, at the end of 3 years, then we will have to remove, that sign that's there. In the meantime, we're gonna be responsible for maintaining the sign, installing it, and all the lighting. They're still gonna mow in the area. But if we had any landscaping, it'll be our responsibility to kind of maintain that. So assuming you're good with the agreement, we would have this on your agenda on Monday. Unfortunately, the township board didn't meet today because they had some server issues that they've been dealing with over
Yeah.
there, which I did not envy them at all. But it sounds like things are were fixed today, and they're hoping to have a special meeting before the end of the month, but I still won't be able to move forward with installation until their board, signs off and then the road commission signs off. So it's still gonna be some time, but work on it. And that DPW knows that that's something that, and I know you want it installed.
Do a handshake or something. I mean, they've pretty much just said they'll do it. We just had to wait for the legal stuff, but now we're gonna be stuck another 2 weeks.
It's up to the township, so. It's their property and really it's ultimately the road commission's, right of way, so.
That's really frustrating. It's taken so long.
I'm glad we're taking the time to do it though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we wanted to have it there.
Will it be up in time for me to decorate it at fall?
I sure hope so. I'd love to get this done soon.
5 or 27.
I mean, when I brought it up, my goal was thinking about summertime, if you remember. But I think the wayfinding is gonna be another year before we start seeing anything from that project, maybe a year from now. So at least we have 3 years knowing that something's going to be there, something very familiar that was there before. And like I said, I think it's the second biggest artery into the downtown area. So it's important to have signage there.
Questions? Any?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you. So is the township, taking an opportunity because the sign was destroyed to maybe rethink of having a sign there and it would not be a city-owned sign? They're going to be willing to do a temporary one, but kind of what I'm hearing between the lines here is that there may be some other thing they want to do with that space, because it's their property, right? And it's the city, it's the township right away, it's the county's roadway. So, because the sign didn't say City of Saugatuck, it just said Saugatuck. So anyway, what's kind of been, where I'm going with this is that what was probably a simple handshake years ago, of course, is not appropriate at this point. You start to get the municipalities involved and this changes everything. I understand that. But if there's an effort to put a permanent sign back in there, why even worry about the temporary sign? Why go through all this effort we spent, I don't know how much on getting a legal agreement together? Why not just work towards a permanent replacement of the sign? Is the township looking at, and this is no disrespect against the township, but are they thinking about something different than what we had there before? And because the city owned the sign, because the city put the sign in. I don't even know what the situation was when that sign went in there in the first place and how long it was there. It was after the Y was taken away, but do you understand what I'm asking? Why not even look, why not start to look forward to?
I'm guessing because it's a temporary sign, because that's what it is. And we do have plans of replacing that after our conversation with wayfinding.
Right. So,
With something that's going to be more cohesive with whatever branding we decide to do. Is Daniel aware of that?
Yeah, he
That's
is.
our
Um,
intention?
now the township may say, well, we don't really want whatever your new branding is on, it. We don't want
Right,
something
that's what I'm saying.
completely, different than that,
Okay.
but they are committing really through this agreement to work, together on and doing something collaborative. And really after the last sign was damaged, I mean, Daniel said, hey, can we work together on, maybe a different option for that intersection? So I think they're approaching this with collaboration. They just want to have some more input and jointly decide on something that represents both municipalities. But I hear your point. It doesn't say city on it, but if they feel like it hasn't always maybe fully represented the township, I totally respect where they're coming from there too.
It is what it is.
Maybe when we get to that conversation, when it's the new branding, maybe the new sign won't say City of Saugatuck, but it would follow the theming and the color and the branding by just saying Saugatuck, maybe, but that would be another conversation down the road. I'm just glad to have something there, at least until we can figure out what we're doing.
Yep.
And I think it was worth the time.
I will say this challenge with, one thing that Daniel's pointed out and is that particular area may change as far as configuration as well. So
Sure.
it may, they really have some big plans and ideas for the Blue Star corridor, and Daniel specifically mentioned that may not, so we may not be able to put a sign exactly right in that location and in that configuration in the future. It may be angled differently, maybe smaller, it may be set back further, and who knows, depending on what a reconfiguration there looks like.
They're talking about a
Yep.
roundabout.
You mentioned.
One option they mentioned, yeah.
There,
social media.
and that's,
Yeah, you mentioned it at.
It's one option that is on the table, but I'm starting to rumors that they're gonna be for sure building one, but that's one
Not on.
thing amongst many that they're, yeah, so.
All right, so this will be on the agenda on Monday. Okay, that takes us to reviewing the city council priorities for the fiscal year. It's started a few days ago. We all have a copy of it. I think, it makes sense for us to periodically pull this out and see where we are, not only in terms of what we've accomplished, and thank you, Ryan, for pulling those bullets. It's great. We do have a lot underway already, so go us, and especially you for moving things along. As we talk about new things, it is helpful to kind of keep in front of us what we have. We've had some good ideas I know we've heard some great ideas and requests from different parts of the community. Dark Sky Initiative, which isn't on this year, we might think about for next year. Chickens have come up a few times. Again, we didn't put it on this year. Not saying we will next year, but just kind of keeping a running list of things that might be coming up. It looks like we could take off the expanding the holiday lighting to Water and Griffith Street, since we didn't budget for that for this year. So not that that was a huge lift, but it's one thing we could take off. As you look at this, anything give you heartburn? I know, Gregory, you've mentioned a few times, wayfinding. I think it's worth, at least at this point, since the year is only 9 days old, to keep it on the list. We may decide to shift it as the year goes on.
Yeah, Maren, I wouldn't say that, expanding holiday lighting is like completely, off, I mean, it's up to you if you want to take it off your priority list, I guess, but, I think what we budgeted for was the fact that, upgrading the electrical, existing electrical to maintain what we have was going to be quite costly.
Right.
So to pay for an expansion of that was going to be a lot. So we only budgeted for kind of upgrading our existing electrical. And since during that budget process, and even since then, Scott Herbert's been talking with consumers about them upgrading their poles and kind of building that cost in, to our charges over time. So it's not this big upfront costs, and they are already used to dealing with their poles and doing that type of work on a regular basis. And so, we may be able to have that work done at a, much lower cost than we're anticipating, which may open up some opportunities to expand, so I wouldn't say it's completely, out, and we do have obviously estimates to expand, just the actual lights themselves, if there is electrical that, so more to come.
Great, okay, good.
I think it's okay. Good, I really do. I think it's okay. And we've got little bits and pieces that have moved faster forward than we anticipate, and some like the AT&T cellular agreement that have brought back. So, but we want to make sure that we're still going to be doing things.
Yeah.
So,
Good, and
I'm happy with it too.
great.
Same.
Well, then that takes us to the closed session. Would someone like to make a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion to move into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.26H to discuss a confidential written legal opinion regarding a proposed sand mining operation near the old landfill in Sagatuck Township, and pursuant to MCL 15.268D to consider the purchase or lease of real property.
second.
This is a roll call. Yes.
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 Motion carries.
I just want to let people know that I got to go to my first committee meeting, and I'm finally going to have a report Monday night.
Finally.
Oh, who, I'm glad to see it, but who put the red markers out? Seemed to be.
Good.
The what?
Yeah.
The place where folks have been grounding.
Uh-huh.
Now there's some red,
Oh, good.
there's some
Markers or
red
whatever.
markers kind of marking.
I don't
it
think
up.
anybody knew.
Right. Okay, we are back in open session.
And I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to motion to deny Site Work Solution Incorporation's request to reduce the setback of its sand mining operation adjacent to the old landfill property and to direct city staff to communicate concerns about that proposed land use to the Saugatuck Township Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, second from Gardner. All right, roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, that takes us to public comments, which I don't think we have anyone to do that. No correspondence in the packet. Council comment. Joe?
I'm good. No comments.
Just a reminder that public parking is not a place to be an entrepreneur. That our parking, that city parking, or any city property is not a place where you can decide to have a business without, the permission of the city. Also music in the park tonight. I hope I see everybody. I'm probably not gonna bring Bubbles this time, but I will stop by there. I was there last week with Bubbles, and I hope everybody had a nice and fun and safe 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you all had the event canceled. I felt terrible for everybody, but I'm glad everybody stayed safe. I will miss music in the park. I'm actually going to go to Noble Twist. My daughter's working there, so I'm gonna have the opportunity to check out that place. And then it's great to see a new business opening up in town.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. So I'm looking forward to checking that out and seeing my daughter working there. And then we're heading over to the SCA to see
Come from away. Yeah.
once again, I mean, we have some great things in this town, and it's just amazing to have these amenities. So thanks.
I just want to say, I'm so sad that the parade got canceled, but I do want to thank April Gundy for all the work she put into not only the parade, but the events that got canceled. She put a lot of work into that, and I thank the CVB for, at least trying to do a lot of really family-friendly events, and of course, the parade that so many people usually take part in. So it's a bummer when, it's rain on your parade, but I do want to thank them for all the efforts to try to get it out there.
Yeah, I would just echo the comments about the 4th of July parade. I was there with the city manager and with the police and with the township fire department as they were making that decision. It was a difficult one, but that rain was coming down. And the, other communities had to do the same thing on last Friday. So it's not like Saugatuck was alone in that decision. I think it was a good one. The only thing I learned from that is that again, communication is important because people are like, what's going on? What's going on? And I think, everybody did as best they could. One of the trucks was going down with a bullhorn saying, hey, the 30 minutes, that kind of stuff. This is the only time I can recall this ever happening. So, it's just it's an unfortunate situation. People were pretty considerate. They understood. And we'll be back next year.
I was at the parade standing on the metal floor of the dump truck while the lady's holding her umbrella and it starts lightning. So we decided to get out.
Adam, yep, it was Adam.
That's wise.
No other comments.
Well, I was sorry to be out of town for the 4th of July and miss the rain, although I was in Sonoma County, which was beautiful and it was great to get away. Good discussions. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.